Two words have forever changed the way that we communicate. Social media. It has changed the way that people interact with one another online as well as with different brands. Popular users on platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are able to collaborate with companies in a relatively new form of marketing called influencer marketing. In order to get a better idea of how influencer marketing actually works, I sat down with several representatives from businesses as well as influencers within the sports and fitness industry. First, I sat down with influencers Armana Christensen and Kenneth Galarzo to get a better idea of what they think influencer marketing is, as well as what it takes to be an influencer.
My name's Armana Christensen, and I am a professional golfer.
Awesome. How long have you been golfing for?
I started golfing when I was like 12 or 13, and then played in high school, and then I was like, I can play in college, so I played in college, and then I finished school and was like, I don't think I want to do anything else yet, so
That's awesome.
I kept playing golf, and then I turned pro a couple years ago.
How would you define influencer marketing?
So I would say influencer marketing is a company that is using someone who is considered, I want to say influencer, but an influencer would be someone who has access or eyes of a lot of people. And it could be on Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be Twitter, it could be a blog post. I consider all of that influencer marketing.
My name is Kenneth Galarzo, and I am a fitness educator.
When did you start building your following on social media?
That probably started around 2012, 2013-ish. Yeah, around that time. So it's been a little while now.
What was your purpose for starting to post stuff?
So actually, the way it initially started was I was doing classes, like teaching calisthenics at a park. And so I had maybe like 8-10 students, something like that. And so we'd come in, we'd do our workouts, we'd, start working on our handstands, muscle ups, just training. And a few of the guys, like, they would, at the end of the session, they would take like a group picture, right? Or they would like take pictures of certain movements they were doing, and they'd be posting them. So then they'd be all excited, like, let's take a group photo, let's post it. And at the beginning, they're like, just get Instagram.
Yeah.
So it started off with just more like everyone at the park were sharing videos like, did you get that picture of me? Like, yeah, I'll post it. And that's how it kind of started. A bigger Instagram account that was like a repost page for fitness, like reposted one of my photos, and it got like so many likes, and I started getting followers from it. And then Nike liked one of my photos and made a comment on it about like using it for like a online campaign, and it just pretty much was like, say yes if you agree, like comment yes, you comment yes, and then they go erase the comment, and they probably now have the rights to use it, whatever. But that then all of a sudden, just like over the next 24 hours, it had another 1,000 followers, and like I said, I think it was genuinely that I was doing something different, and that I was doing it all the time and passionate about it, that in the beginning there was a lot of reposts, a lot of shares, and a lot of intrigue.
How would you define influencer marketing? Like, what you think influencer marketing is to you?
I mean, it's almost like, it's just marketing. It's obviously you have a lot of people out there who people follow, and I'm not going to say that it's always a good thing.
Right.
I think that, people can use their influence for good and for bad, and I think we live in a society where sometimes people who are more popular have more influence than people who actually have some importance behind them, or some sort of something that they can really offer that's going to benefit society more than just, maybe someone, showing off their body.
I also spoke with businesses that utilize influencer marketing and spoke with Representatives Steve Colton from Encore Golf and Eric Archer from Mashlink.
My name is Steve Colton. I'm the co-founder of Encore Golf and vice president of sales. We are located in downtown Buffalo, New York, the city of good neighbors.
And do you guys utilize influencer marketing?
Yes, we do. Over the last few years, we've experimented with a number of different influencer-related marketing campaigns and engaged with a number of top influencers in the golf space.
What is influencer marketing to you?
Good question. I think as a new company, traditionally you would look for established publications in your space. In my instance, golf, being in the golf industry, you've got brands like Golf Digest and Golf Channel that have been known for a while. So to associate your company with those brands gives you credibility, assuming it's in a positive light. So influencer marketing is you're associating your company with a particular person who has influence over, presumably a large social media following, and you're trying to tap into that base to convey a message about your company, your products, your services, and do it in an authentic manner vis-a-vis the influencer, because they have that relationship with their audience.
My name is Eric Archer, and I'm located in Massachusetts, about 30 miles north of Boston.
What do you do for work?
When I'm not doing video production, I also had a startup venture that was a mobile app.
Very cool. What was the name of that?
It was called Mashlink.
Nice. And what was like the concept behind the app?
So the concept was that anybody could insert their own personal video commentary into any video on the web.
Okay. And you got to work with different influencers with that as well?
We did. We tried a number of campaigns, tested some different ideas with varying degrees of success.
Mm-hmm. What is influencer marketing to you?
To me, it's just leveraging people's social media popularity to market a product or service.
I wanted to know more about how Armana and Ken work with different businesses, as well as why they think people look to them on social media. Why do you think people look to you on social media?
Well, I think I'm really, one, I'm a professional golfer, so I'm literally in the industry 24/7. Right. So I think that's a big part of the reason why people follow and then trust what I say.
So with doing the professional golfing, I guess you work with a couple of companies too, doing everything, right?
Yeah. So it's hard because as a woman playing mini tour golf, there's not a lot of sponsorships in it. Mm-hmm. So that's where the social media is really helpful, actually.
Oh, very cool. How did you discover that you could partner up with the different companies and start working with them?
I think it started when someone reached out to me first. Mm-hmm. So as soon as someone started reaching out to me, I was like, oh, okay, so now I'm at the point where there's some sort of demand. People see that I have some sort of following and engagement, and they want to use that. And so if they see it as a benefit, then I should too.
And what type of companies do you usually work with on social media?
So in the golf world, it can really vary. So I'm currently partnered with Nike. So I work with them for just their golf clothes. So I can't pick up the phone and call my rep and say, oh, I want all these workout clothes. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sector. So he's the golf rep. So I just work with him. I have a golf ball company, Encore Golf.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, it can range. Sometimes I've worked with sports bars or protein powders or there's another company that does speakers for on the golf course. And mm-hmm. Yeah, so it really varies on who's around and who's interested.
What do you think brings people to follow you on social media?
Well, I think the initial stages really came from people that were interested in calisthenics, mm-hmm. People that were interested in body weight training. I think now it's become a little more normal, but at one time it was very new to people, mm-hmm. and so I think that was the initial drive, and then from there I think that people follow me just because of tips that I provide or information I share with people on certain tutorials and how to do certain things.
What type of relationships have you built up with different companies, and how have you worked with them in the past?
So I would say the companies that I've worked with the longest have been more on the smaller end, not big, huge corporations. But I have done a few like ad campaigns. Like I did one marketing campaign for Under Armour, right? Again, through a third party, so it wasn't directly with Under Armour, where, they sent a criteria. We want, 3 posts within, X amount of days. We want X amount of stories, and they'll make you an offer. We'll pay you, this much money for all 3 posts and for the stories, and, you complete them and they PayPal you, and that's it.
People follow Armana and Ken on social media in order to get more information about golf or calisthenics. But why do businesses want to work with them?
At the end of the day, if you can get exposure for your company, if you can get sales, obviously those are good things. Assuming the exposure is the right kind of exposure. Ultimately, I think you want followers of that particular person to feel a connection with your company the same way they do with the influencer. And it might be for different reasons, but you're trying to form that connection with a portion of their audience and convert them to, in our case, loyal Encore golf ball users and fans.
More than anything, people have a really finely tuned bullshit radar for sales material of any kind.
Right.
So when you can sort of bypass that and get a testimonial or an endorsement from an influencer, even if it's transparent and they're hashtagging ad and they're being clear that this is a sponsored post,
Right.
I think it can definitely sort of bypass people's radar for like, I'm being sold something, I'm looking away now.
Right.
that we all do.
For sure.
We're all trying to avoid being sold anything, I think.
Right.
So, brands have to deal with that.
Do you think this form of marketing is successful with consumers?
It's a pretty wide-ranging scale of effectiveness. There's massive problems with it that are pretty well documented with fake users and things like that. But you can really get put on by the right influencer who's authentically marketing your product and, generating real interest and following through on the things that you ask them to do. And, some of the work that we did with influencers was massively successful if you're looking at it from a viewership, brand awareness perspective. Like giving, like Thrill Ride would get 80,000 views on something with us that we couldn't have done on our own.
Or what are businesses looking for from you when you partner up with them?
So like I just had it happen today. I reached out to someone and was like, hey, I really want to work with you. And it was great because the first thing that they asked me for were my demographics and some analytics on my previous promoted posts. So for me, that's really positive because I have really good engagement, like natural engagement. That means that, someone who may have bought their followers, they're gonna see that right away. So I think that that's something that's super helpful for me, the brand, so no one gets burned in the end. So
How important is that organic connection when kind of finding those audience members of an influencer to Encore?
I think it's incredibly important. If you don't have the authentic connection, someone's not going to try your product. In our case, golf is a social sport, and it's a word of mouth. If your buddy's playing a certain driver or a certain golf ball, and he's happy with it, he's going to tell all his friends what products he's using. So to get that trial, you've got to have the authentic connection with the brand and the influencer to the point where they will try the product, talk about it, and share it just as the influencer is.
In order for businesses to authentically reach customers through influencers, there first has to be a real connection between influencer and follower.
Why do you think this form of marketing is successful with consumers?
I think that it's really successful with consumers because it's not a company telling you to go and buy something. It's coming straight from a person who's used the product and says, yeah, I really like this. This is really good. And I think that you should give it a shot too. So,
What makes a good influencer, in your opinion?
I think an influencer that actually tries the product and is honest with their following about it. I turn down products and I turn down companies that I just don't feel are a good fit for my brand, or that I would never use their product. And if I'm hesitant, then I don't say that I'm going to post anything when they send me something. So they say, hey, I want to send you something. And I'm like, if you want to, but I'm not going to do any sort of agreement with it. And then they send it, like it, then I'll post it. But I've told my audience that I do that.
How important do you think trust is with your followers?
I mean, I think it's huge. I think it only helps the brands in the long run, because if the brands know that my audience trusts what I say because I've always told them my honest opinion, then it only helps them when I do push a product and it works.
How important is interacting with your followers, like either through comments or things like that?
It's probably really important. You know, you got to remember, like, a lot of people spend a lot of time on their phones.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I don't think I've ever done a really good job of interacting a lot, to be honest with you. But again, I don't think I took social media to be, like, of the utmost importance.
Yeah.
You know, it's there and it's a tool, and you know, I probably should be better at it. But it is really important. You know, like, the pages that interact, they start to really hold on to that following. People start to form connections with them, bonds with them, and you know, if you're not doing that, you start to create a little bit more distance, right? And the more distance that's created, it's easier for people to unfollow you or not to stay engaged with what you're doing.
Influencer marketing can create incredibly beneficial partnerships, but it can also create a lot of problems if things don't go according to plan.
Did working with any of the influencers have a negative impact on your company at all?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely made some, had some engagements that didn't happen the way that I needed them to happen, which negatively impact the trajectory of my company. Always having to do with, you know, holding them accountable to deliverables and expectations and timelines and those sorts of things. Like, one example is, you know, I had an agreement with Thrill Ride to comment on every Red Sox playoff game. And he had a massive sports baseball following. And so we were all set to go, and my company was really well positioned to grow. But it was also a critical time where if we didn't, things were going to get bad. And so it's like you get to this crossroad, and, you know, for a little startup like mine, we only had a little bit of money to throw at our best plays.
Right.
You know, our best ideas for succeeding. And so we said, okay, you know what, we're going to bet on this guy. He's done well for us to this point. We've seen success with previous posts. Let's do this. It makes sense. And we're going to spend the money. And he just flaked and didn't do it and ghosted me and wouldn't respond. And I watched the Red Sox start the playoffs, go through some incredibly exciting series, and on to win the World Series. All the while, I'm texting this guy like, okay, we missed the first playoff series. How about we start on the second? And, you know, he just was going through some personal problems and just didn't do it. And by the time the Red Sox were winning the World Series, and I was just imagining 100,000 views, 150,000 views, 200,000 views, and all these downloads as a result. You know, you know the series they had with the Yankees was like such a nail biter. You know, like, imagine if I have a guy riling up both sides.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it would have just been incredibly beneficial. So to watch that just disappear was gut-wrenching, and then to watch it hurt the company you know, I spent this money that didn't go anywhere, and I didn't get the activity, and I lost all this time. You know, tough, very tough. You know, if you can't hold them accountable and make them do it, it's very hard. You know, it's the kind of thing you'd fire somebody for.
Right, exactly.
But you can't, you know, it's like, so.
While businesses have their struggles, influencers can also have struggles on their side of the process too.
Do you think there needs to be any changes within influencer marketing?
I know there's negotiation as far as like pricing for posts, but I wish that it was a little bit more out there, a little bit more common for brands to understand where we're coming from. Like I said, a lot of them contact me and they want to, you know, I tell them my rate and they're like, well, that's outrageous. And I'm like, it's kind of the going rate, and they seem surprised by it. And then of course on the influencer side, there are people who jack up their rates. So then don't want to work with us ever because they got burned by someone where they spent so much money and they didn't see anything. So I think the pricing is kind of weird. But I think that's advertising, not just influencer marketing. So it depends on who you work with and where you go.
Right.
And along with pricing though, I think that the what the result is going to be, I wish that brands were aware of what generally transpires on social media, because I see social media as a brand awareness thing. I don't think that if you're looking to like sell an item quickly, that is generally the place you're going to go. You know, I do a post and it's like I can't link to it.
Right.
And you're only doing a tag, so then they have to go through multiple steps in order to buy your product. Well, it's hard because I'm like, well, if you're looking for sales where I'm getting a commission on it, I don't love that, because it's not like if you put an ad in the newspaper, it's more about brand awareness than it is about like, I'm going to go sell this thing and I'm going to see it in 24 hours.
Right.
So that's kind of hard because my degree is in advertising, so I know this. Hard to like tell people like, no, think brand awareness, not I'm selling a product through this other person's post. So that would be nice to change.
Have you run into any problems working with different businesses or brands in your experiences?
Not really. I think maybe if anything, sometimes just, you know, it's not even an issue, but like specifics, like they want to post at a certain time and date, and you know, and they might ask for a generic things like you know, make it in a more natural environment, where, you know what I mean? Like it's just like, all right, well, I have to try to find a natural environment, and they want it on this day, and I don't know, man. Just, but nothing overly complicated, you know. No major issues. But again, I don't think I do these campaigns like all the time. I seldomly do them, especially now.
In a business where it's key to have honest and organic connections with followers for success, specifics about posts can sometimes negatively impact both businesses and influencers.
I had been turned away a few times because it wasn't the right sort of product influencer fit. You know, they're protecting their brand as much as I am.
Right.
You know, and so you've got to find that that relationship. They were always looking to sort of time it in their calendar of posting and creation. You know, they have a number of engagements going on and whatever they're doing organically, and you're trying to slot yourself in there. And sometimes calendars can be kind of a friction point.
How do you decide which companies to work with and which ones maybe aren't the best ones in line with you?
Yeah, so anything golf related generally is going to do well with my audience. But if it's a product that I know is a something that I just would never use, like there was a specific glove company that I saw the glove and it was for very beginners. Well, I'm never going to use that product, so how can I push it?
Right.
And then I've had like a skincare line reach out to me. Well, my audience is 87% men. They don't So, and I always tell those brands, like, hey, I would love to work with you, but it's not that the audience isn't what you're looking for. So if you want to work with me, great. But just be aware that it could not go well because of this reason. So I try to be honest about it because I don't want anyone to be unhappy with the results that they get when they pay for it. So
Where do you think influencer marketing is headed in the future?
It's a pretty fascinating way for brands to sell their products.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's a pretty interesting replacement of other channels,
Mm-hmm.
like brick and mortar stores. I mean, if you can properly engage influencers, you could do it at scale. You could do it
Mm-hmm.
cost effectively, and I think it would feel a lot more authentic to a lot of end consumers. Like, where would $1 million be better spent? Would it be better spent on a 30-second commercial for broadcast, or what kind of damage could you do spreading that out over 1,000 influencers who can make a commission if they refer your product correctly, and they're all building these little micro brands and they have all the technology support to do that easily.
Mm-hmm.
Influencer marketing isn't going anywhere anytime soon, so it's important to have conversations like this so that businesses and influencers can better work together and make the most out of their relationships. It's also important to educate consumers so that they do not get taken advantage of with this new form of marketing. From these interviews, we can take away that trust and transparency are major keys within influencer marketing. With businesses, influencers, and consumers all on the same page, influencer marketing has the potential to deliver some really impressive results for all those involved.